but I think we should probably spend that time towards the big part of this announcement, because the series itself is going in a very, say, different direction. Similar to what we've seen in NASCAR, if you haven't heard, Supercars is debuting a elimination style playoff system in 2025. Don't leave yet. Stay with me. Chase for the cup or the playoffs. This is not, we're calling it the finals. It's breaking down the season into 3 pieces. You got rounds 1 and 8. First couple of races at Sydney, Melbourne, Taupo, Tasmania, Perth, Darwin, Townsville, and Queensland. That's your Sprint Cup. After the weekend at Queensland, Sprint Cup champion will be crowned and then awarded to an automatic playoff berth. After that, we're over to the Enduro Cup events, Ben 500, Bathurst 1000. And then after the great race, we go crown an Enduro champion. And they'll also earn an automatic playoff berth, by the way. But if the Sprint and Enduro Cup champions are within the top 10 in points, only 8 additional playoff spots will be available on points. So next year's Bathurst 1000 will also serve as the beginning of the regular season, will also serve as the regular season finale, which I actually like personally. But with the Supercar finals, aka playoffs, beginning October 24th to 26th at Gold Coast, the top 10 in points from Sydney through Bathurst, which includes Sprint and Enduro Cup champions, will get to compete for the championship. And at the start of the postseason, points will reset to 3,000. This is where it sounds familiar. Points reset to 3,000. Additional bonus points will be awarded based on regular season performance. If a driver wins one of the 2 Gold Coast races, automatically into the next round. But if the bottom 3 drivers will be eliminated from the round of 10. The round of 7 kicks off at Sandown November 14th to 16th, with the top 7 drivers seeing points reset to 4,000. If a driver wins one of the two Sandown races, they'll advance to the championship 4 at Adelaide. With 2 250-kilometer races scheduled at Sandown next year, 2 drivers could win their way into the championship round, and at least 2 drivers will make it on points. Championship 4 races titled the Valo Adelaide Grand Final, as the 4 title contenders will see their points reset one final time to $5,000 or 5,000 points on November 27th to 30th. I'm tired, guys. The champion will be determined based on 3 races at Adelaide, short 100-kilometer race on Friday, then a pair of 250s on Saturday and Sunday. Bonus points will be applied based on the previous results, and then the highest driver in points after the final race will be crowned as the 2025 Repco Supercar Champion. Supercar CEO Shane Howard said finals elimination style was created to give fans more excitement, unpredictability, and a trust test to find the best champion, feeling confident that the new format will keep fans on the edge of their seats until the very final lap. You got all that? That will be on the test. And Ben already out of the gate here. We're talking about playoffs. Matt, let's start with you. General thoughts on this new format.
Nice. Ben also continues, you don't play motor racing, you race motor racing.
We can call it the race-offs if you want.
Absolutely. Good evening, Matthew Owens. He says we need Bill Webber to get on the air for the chase for the Sprint Cup. If they don't get Nextel involved, I know they don't exist anymore, but then that's a fail. I saw this, what was it, Thursday last week this came out, and it had been mooted through the summer, and then it was like, oh, they're actually doing it. It is actually going to be a thing. I love Aaron Noonan, but he was one of the ones that was former Supercars commentator, the sleuth. They'd come up with one of these ideas, and they've picked the ball up. And to go back to the Cowboys thing, they've picked it up and taken it to the house and scored a touchdown. Australian sport generally, and Adam will know that more of what I'm going to go with here. We've just had grand final season for the AFL and for rugby. Grand finals is massive, huge. Supercars wanted their grand final. They always say, and I've got it on the screen right now, and Porsche Supercup practice is on at Bathurst, that Bathurst is the grand final. Well, it hasn't been the championship finale, apart from a couple of years ago during the COVID times, ever. But it's the biggest race of the season. Now we bring it into that Endurance Cup as a thing. We used to have the Pertec Enduro Cup when it was Sandown, Bathurst and the Gold Coast, when we used to have that as a 2-man endurance races. Cool time, get it back, get all those IndyCar drivers back over again. Wish we could do that, all that stuff again. But now we've got this situation. I hated it to start off with. The more I've thought about it over the last couple of days, the more and more we do the same thing and expect a different result, nothing happens. That's one of the first rules of insanity, or whatever that saying is. They've changed it up. Go with it and see what happens. Here in the UK, they've done a similar thing in the British Superbike Championship over the last 8 to 10 years, and had a playoff system. They call it the Showdown, and it happens to be that the last races at Brands Hatch this weekend to crown the champion. And it's worked. It has worked. It's changed things up. We don't get the runaway champion towards the end of the year that can't be beaten. So I don't know. I'm skeptical, but I think I'm coming around slowly to the fact that it might be quite good. Matthew continues. He says, and we'd like to welcome Supercars to the Choice World. Playoff controversy that tears fans and legions apart. Yes. Josh is maybe being hospitalized for my mouth surgery wasn't a bad thing after seeing that long-winded script that Jackson just went through. Supercars copying NASCAR, Adam says. Well, I mean, Supercars guys going to NASCAR and winning races. It's going to be a thing. Might well be one again this weekend at Charlotte. I don't think it's a copy, but here's a cool idea. Other people are doing it. Let's try it ourselves. I was going to go somewhere before I started reading Matthew's comment, and now I've forgotten what it was. Yes. Someone said on Facebook earlier, I saw that they'd done a recalculation of last year's points, and we know Brody Kostecki was the champion. But if you for last year's point system through this format, that Cam Waters would end up being the champion. So it changed the way that last year finished if we'd run that then. What I do like, and I won't go back to the free races thing, is at Adelaide, there's going to be that race on Friday. We'll have the traditional 250k races, which has been a staple of that event since day dot. But we could have a 100k race in the twilight on Friday, which will be really good. Sets up the weekend or change the points around a little bit. Then you can just build and build and build through the rounds. You sound quite positive on this, and the more I talk about it, I think it's going to be a good idea. I don't know about you, Kobe, but I'm warming to it the more I talk about it.
Yeah, Matt, I've been studying this playoff format since it. Excuse me. Yeah, as I was trying to say before, that looking at this playoff format, it's definitely interesting. I'll say that, and I also want to start off by saying the only finals that I know are the NBA finals. Yeah, so. But overall, I guess this is just where we are right now in the racing world as my voice decides to go. But the biggest question that I have about this playoff format are the bonus points you mentioned. Jackson, Supercars still, unless I've missed it, and Adam says you're the Supercars expert in the chat room, let me know if I have, but I didn't see anywhere where Supercars announced, like, how are the bonus points going to work? Yeah, since in the press release it said that, that when the points reset, that the bonus points are going to be based on regular season performance. So is it going to be like in NASCAR where you win a race and you get 5 playoff points? I wonder if you win a race on Supercars, you're going to get like are those bonus points to talk of basically going to be what we call playoff points in the NASCAR playoff system? And if that's the case, like how many bonus points / playoff points are they going to award when the points reset? So that's probably something that they're figuring out right now, unless I've missed that. But looking at this entire playoff that they're going to be attempted next year, I think it obviously makes sense. Your ultimate crown jewel race, the Bathurst 1000, having that be your regular season finale is probably the right move. Since all the attention is going to be on that race, you're obviously going to want to win. You're obviously going to want to win the Enduro Cup. You're obviously going to want to win the Bathurst 1000 and then solidify your spot in the playoffs and all of that. And when I think about the Enduro Cup, something like this could have benefited someone by the name of Brody Kostecki this year if we had the playoff system this year, because as we all know, we covered all of the drama Brody had off the track with Airbus Motorsport and the legal situation and how it didn't look like he was going to race at all this year. And then all of a sudden they came to a resolution, and we saw Brody come in after missing, the first little bit of the season, and basically by then his championship hopes were over. I mean, Airbus, they really haven't looked like themselves at all this season. But in a perfect world, just think, under next year's playoff format, if you were a Brody Kostecki who was, going through legal situation with your team off the track, and if you came in later in the season, like on the current format, Brody's season's over. But if the situation were to arise under next year's format, yeah, your Sprint Cup season would be over, but you could circle those enduros and you could potentially get into the playoffs that way. So if Bertie Kostecki and Erebus was in a situation like that next year, and we know he's not going to be there next year, but just speaking hypothetically right now, your Sprint Cup season is wrecked, but then you can go out there, go to the Bend Motorsport Park, and then go to Bathurst. You don't necessarily have to win those events, but at least be the highest finishing driver in points in those enduros. So you could potentially save your season and get into the playoffs that way, which would certainly be really interesting. And then for those final 3 race weekends that they're going to have the playoffs, you can carry the why not us mentality, and you can try to make a deep playoff run, so to speak, and try to fight for the championship and what's been a dismal year for that team. So I could see, something like that happening. And looking at seeing what some others are saying about this, I know I've been reading some of the comments from the fans, and it seems like most of them are universally against this idea of bringing a playoff format to the Supercars Championship. But I will say one of their former champions, Scott McLaughlin, said he likes it. He said you got to be good and consistent at the end over 3 tough tracks. Everyone hates change, but he feels like that this will be a good one. And then he replied to a fan's comment, saying that basically means 90% of the season doesn't even matter now. And then McLaughlin brings up the point, but like you basically that Bathurst is the regular season finale. You've already run, over like 20, well over 20 races by then, and it's the top 10 in points. So he's saying that the season does matter. In that case, Supercars it doesn't have the winning you're in playoff format, which would be interesting if they move to something like that in recent years, because we know playoff formats are subject to change and all of that. I also like to see what Shane Van Gisbergen has to say about that. I saw Matt Weaver asked him about it at Talladega, but that was based on the scoop from speedcafe.com, that they were going to this. But at the time, we didn't really have all the information about this. SVG answered Matt Weaver's question and said that, he doesn't really know how it will work over there, but he guessed it could. So we didn't really have all the information. Since we have all the information, I wonder if anybody's going to ask him that at the Charlotte Roval this weekend. But all in all, like you said, Matt, I'm going to take a wait and see approach to this playoff system in the Supercars, and we'll see how it goes from here. At least for the grand finals championship 4 style race that they're having in Adelaide, they're actually going to be going into the weekend, resetting points, and based on those 3 races that we see in Adelaide, that's going to determine a champion. It's not like it's going to be just one race at Adelaide and the highest finishing driver is going to win the championship there. So you're still going to have to be consistent throughout the weekend there. So it's not like just one race is going to determine what happens in your season. You're going to have 4 lucky drivers who are able to battle for a championship, and the best driver and team throughout the course of the weekend is going to be champion. But yeah, we just have to see how this goes.
Yeah, I'll touch on this really quickly because I was actually going to mention the McLaughlin quotes. Kind of the favorite one that I saw was one fan said a bad weekend can throw an entire season away in this format, and Scotty Mack said so can a DNF at Bathurst in the current season format. Yeah. So I agree 100% because it rewards consistency and solid results where it matters, and I think, and we'll see if this matches my theory, but rather than pulling an Austin Dillon and forcing a Hail Mary to make it into the playoffs, it rewards consistency and solid performance over a duration compared to kind of crash landing into a cut line. I like it because it's different enough from NASCAR's format. And granted, it could make certain races an absolute snooze fest because no one wants to lose positions. We'll see how the championship playoff is. We don't even know how half of this system actually works right now. So as Matt Owen says, entertainment value up, controversy level and headlines up, legitimacy. Again, if I'm totally okay with it if it's going to keep racing alive in the state that it is, because we talk about if I'm organizing an event right now, the 2 races I want biggest, where I want to be in order, is either the season opener or the season finale, because there's at least some hope right now if I'm like running an IndyCar race. And I'm not saying we need IndyCar playoffs, not at all, but there's a little bit of promise in there's chances that my race might be the one where we crown a champion. But if I'm now Queensland Raceway, I'm able to tell promoters, hey, this is the finale of the Sprint Series. We're going to crown a champion at the end of this thing. And the same thing applies to, don't get me wrong, Gold Coast, the Bend, these are already prestigious tracks, prestigious events, but you're able to add a little bit of, a little bit more to that package when you're presenting it to TV, to sponsors, to advertisers. I think it's going to be interesting. We're going to have to wait and see how it plays off. And it sucks that whoever's going to win the first one in this playoffs is going to have a little bit of an asterisk next to it for a while, but we'll see. Joe said too late. Roger Penske heard that. No, no, Roger, don't it might be fists out if Roger does that. Not actually, but Roger, please don't.
Yeah. And before I answer that question, Jackson, I'll read what Ben says. He said, if IndyCar goes to the playoffs,
I might bounce too.
Announce my retirement from motorsports media. Oh, you want to
really quickly before we actually get to this? It's not like playoff formats. We're putting this to bed for sure after this. It's not like playoff things are controversial outside of racing. Just ask Ben's Phillies and the LA Dodgers right now. Go.